So, Jamie, what happens when a principal's retirement gift to a friend causes a community uproar?
A retirement gift like flowers?
Not exactly.
No? It was a little bit more problematic than flowers, right?
A little bit. Maybe a district logo reprinted onto a coaster with some profanity laden language and maybe some other offensive stuff.
Oh, well, I guess that's one way to get the principal into an early retirement.
Ayo. Or dismissed, as the case might be.
Okay, well, that's the case we're going to talk about today, everybody, on Chalk and Gavel. Welcome back to the show. This is Chalk and Gavel, where we explore how the law shapes education, one case at a time. I'm Jamie Cudlitz. I'm a former middle school math teacher and principal.
And I'm Chris Thomas. I've been a high school English teacher and a school attorney. Now we're both professors of educational leadership, bringing you the fascinating stories connecting the courtroom to the classroom.
Gavel is for educational purposes only. While Chris and Jamie always try to provide accurate information, the law is like what I'm willing to eat. It's always changing. This podcast is not legal advice and does not create an attorney-client relationship, but they promised me it would be a lot of fun. For you. Can I get my candy now?
All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to check out chalkandgavel.com. Lots of great information there and some merch. But check it out. Let's go straight to the bell ringer. Chris, what do you got?
I've got another update about the Trump administration's efforts to roll back the Federal Department of Education.
Oh, boy, lots of updates.
I know. I feel like
updates after updates.
What was it we were calling Groundhog Day? Oh, it was the 10 Commandments keep popping up everywhere, right?
Uh-huh.
This is a little bit like that.
Yeah.
But
what
there's
now,
like some
Chris?
real action here now. So, we've covered a number of rounds of layoffs, not to imply that that's not real action. Obviously, that was really significant, as well as Trump's executive order from March of 2025 telling Secretary McMahon to basically do what you could to close the department. Well, now we've got some actual efforts to move some of the functions of the Department of Education to other federal agencies.
Right.
So this happened on November 18th. We've got 6 new interagency agreements between the Department of Education and 4 other federal agencies: the Department of Labor, the Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of the Interior, and the State Department. And each of those is going to take on different functions of the Department of Education, the vast majority of which are going to the Department of Labor to the tune of about $31 billion of DOE programs are going to get moved to DOL. Yeah. It's like, this is serious stuff. So like, basically like the strategy here isn't to close the department. It's to basically turn the department into a hallway. Like, money and responsibility just go through the front door, you walk down the hallway, and then you hand it off to another agency.
It's almost like the department is turning into, it's the UPS of education, or we'll just take your stuff and take it to somebody else.
Right. And that's exactly the strategy here, because like, it doesn't seem like there's political will to close the department.
They should just incorporate it into the Postal Service.
There you go. Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, the UPS of the UPS, because the UPS is already a federal agency. Right. Yeah. So like the thing here is like the laws haven't changed because Congress hasn't done anything, right? Like all of these laws still say the Department of Education shall do X, Y, and Z, and like we're going to give the Department of Education all this money, but the Department of Education is basically subcontracting those responsibilities to these other agencies.
Yeah.
And this may surprise you, but we already have lawsuits challenging these actions.
See, this is my surprised face.
I can tell that is a very surprised face. That's just the natural cycle of these things these days. And also unsurprising, the Trump administration is making some very novel arguments because this is a very novel action, basically trying to close a department without actually closing a department.
Right.
So the Trump administration is arguing that they have the authority to do this under what's called the Economy Act. which is a federal law that allows agencies to obtain supplies and services from other branches of government. But like the people who are challenging these actions are basically saying like, that's not what you're doing. You're basically co-opting the role of Congress because Congress is the one who creates agencies and tells them what to do.
Right.
You're basically trying to do a runaround of Congress. And that's like not within your authority. So they're challenging whether or not the secretary even has the authority to kind of basically subcontract out the operations of the Department of Education.
Right. Because the DOE is basically saying to Congress, okay, even though you've established us and you've told us what to do, we're not going to do it anymore.
Right. Yeah. We're just going to be the postman taking it to another agency.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Wow.
So interesting stuff. Also widely unpopular. There's actually been a lot of pushback.
Really?
I know. Shocking.
Surprise face again.
You got to work on that. So like even Republicans at this point are kind of questioning whether or not this accomplishes Trump's stated goal of moving education back to the states. Cause like this doesn't change
It's not
the
doing
work,
that. No,
right? No, it's basically just,
it's keeping it in federal government. It's just another department.
it's actually, you know, in a way it's adding more bureaucracy because instead of having it all centralized, now it's all scattered to the four winds. One quote from a think tank leader that I thought was really good is that, these actions are creating, quote, a bureaucratic Rube Goldberg machine where things are actually more complicated and inefficient. So like, you know, this is one of those questions of like, you're not changing the work. You're just changing who does the work.
Yeah. Well, and making it and making it much more complicated and
right.
And raising
and removing a
questions
lot
about
of institutional expertise and experience.
Yeah. And you're raising the questions about, is the work going to be able to be done effectively, efficiently, whatever? Like the jury's out on that.
Right. And there's going to be a lot of disruption in the meantime, right?
Exactly.
So we will keep an eye on these lawsuits.
Yes, we will.
Add them to the list.
We will. I'll work on my surprised face.
Please do.
Thanks. Okay, so let's dig into today's case. We're calling this one the case of the questionable coasters.
I like that.
You
Good
like that?
alliteration.
Yeah. So this is the case of the questionable coasters because, as we mentioned earlier, this case deals with a principal who was fired after co-opting this district logo, all right, and changing the wording and changing some of the graphics on the district logo into some stuff that was a little bit profane and offensive. Okay. This case revolves around Principal Brett Stirling, who was the principal at, I think it's called Cali School, which is in Point Lay in the North Slope Borough District, School District in Alaska. Fun fact, Chris.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
This
I love a
school
fun
district,
fact.
you liked a fun fact. Excellent. This school district is the northernmost school district in the United States.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. Alaska, right?
Alaska. Well, I mean, there's lots of places in Alaska that aren't the northernmost, whatever.
Right. But if there is going to be a northernmost school district,
Yeah, it's
gonna be
probably
in Alaska.
in Alaska, right? So it's got another fun fact. It's also the
twofer.
The largest school district by area. It covers around 88,000 square miles. Okay.
Whoa. I mean, that
So-
sounds huge.
It sounds huge, Chris, because it is huge. It is, just to
right.
give you a little point of reference, that's about the size of Minnesota. It covers the entire northern coast of Alaska. So obviously, this place is really remote. Okay?
Right. So that's massive.
It's massive. It's very remote. The district's website says that the North Slope communities up there are primarily only accessible by air. There's only one road to the region, which is used mostly for freight things.
So like ice road
like
truckers.
ice road
Was that
truckers.
the-
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I really
wow.
like
So
that
like
show.
seriously remote.
Oh, yeah,
Seriously rural.
Yeah, it is funny because, in a little bit, we'll explain what happened, but the principal had to get away for a little bit, so he had to take a plane to the next community. It's very remote. And I don't know about any of our listeners out there, but I've watched some of those Discovery Channel, Alaska kinds of shows. And it's just fascinating how those communities function in such remote areas.
Right.
Yeah, so that's where all of this takes place. Okay.
So a very specific community, right? Like this is.
Oh yeah. It even as big as it is, it only serves about 2,000 students. Okay, obviously,
in a
because
district the size of Minnesota.
yeah.
Wow.
And like keeping in mind, the average major metropolitan school district, has 100,000 students in
Right.
some larger school districts, and this one 2,000. Now the majority. So here's a little. The context here is really important. So we're going to try to lay the
Context matters?
Exactly. Context matters. So the majority of the students are Alaska natives, okay? Specifically the Inupiat, okay, culture up there in Alaska. And the district's website says, quote, "The North Slope Borough School District is committed to embedding through our curriculum and teaching practices traditional Inupiaq ways of raising and educating children." So
Okay.
obviously this, cultural identity and the heritage and everything is hugely important up there, understandably. And, looking through the district's website and their curriculum materials and things like that, you can really tell they are very deeply connected and committed to that culture and that Alaska Native way of life, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, deeply embedded in the community.
Right. So you've got a tight-knit community that's very remote, that is kind of, very unique in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And, I did a little bit of other digging around that community, that area up there. And, I think that in addition to, its remoteness and all of that stuff and the challenges that it faces, I read a little bit about how the permafrost up there is not so perma anymore, which is causing some major infrastructure problems and, access to clean drinking water. And, so it sounds to me like this is a community that it has a great deal of challenges. It sounds like,
Right.
And so
a very
that's
tight-knit community that's dealing with some very unique challenges. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that it's probably obvious to most of our listeners and everything that when we talk about schools wrestle with the problems in their communities constantly, right? Like it's not like those problems exist outside of the school, right?
Right. Yeah,
Everything comes into the school.
Right. Yeah. There's a very permeable barrier between the school, to the extent that there is even a distinction between the school and the community, right? Because these schools are parts of and serve the community. So those connections are so important.
Exactly. So that's a little bit of the foundation here. So let's get back to Brett Stirling, principal at this school, which was a pre-K to 12 school. And he was the principal there from 2020 to February of 2022. So not a very long tenure.
What happened in February of 2022?
Well, he was no longer the principal.
Oh, no.
Spoiler alert.
Right.
Okay. So here's what happened. In January of 2022, it's fair to say that Stirling was facing some stress and some pressure in the job. I think a lot of that was sort of normal principal stressors and things like that.
Right. A K-12 school in a remote rural district, like that's got to have some unique challenges, right?
Yeah, it's probably facing some very unique challenges. So in addition to all of the probably normal school administration stuff, he was dealing with things like some unique situations, like there was an email that he sent that month to the district administration about a homicide that was conducted by a staff member's sibling.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, in one of the school housing units.
Oh,
okay.
Right, because you're so remote, you probably put your teachers up in housing.
Possibly, yeah. So one of the teacher's brothers murdered somebody up there. So that probably comes into the school somehow.
Yeah.
There was some new district policies that the principal didn't like. We had staff members smoking pot outside of a classroom.
Whoops.
There was severe staff shortages, just lots of stuff.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. The stuff that keeps school leaders checking their emails 24/7, right?
Yes. Yes. It's important to stop here and let's talk just for a second. We don't have to talk about it, but let's just mention the importance of of principal and teacher well-being.
Very important.
Yes. Like it is definitely a difficult job on a number of levels. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And we don't acknowledge that kind of like emotional labor that goes into all of this as often as we probably should. Right.
Right. Exactly.
And if we handle that in productive ways, then maybe you don't have to look for unproductive outlets.
Ways. Let's talk about one of those unproductive outlets. So in January, specifically at the end of January on the 26th, Stirling comes back to school after hours to use the school's laser wood engraver. All right? Yeah.
Red flag number 1, he's using school equipment.
Yes. And to conduct non-school business. All right. So he came back because he wanted to make coasters for himself and as a retirement gift for one of his principal friends. Okay. In the same district.
That's thoughtful.
Yes. Very nice. And so what he decided to do was, as the basis, as the starting point for his coaster, he was going to use the district's logo and modify it.
In polite, respectful ways.
Yeah. No. So let me describe the official logo. I think we can, we'll try to put that up on our YouTube channel when we're making the video here. Maybe show you some pictures of the original logo and the updated one. But for all you listeners out there, let's describe it. So the official logo, not the Stirling version, has an image of Alaska Native children performing a traditional blanket toss. Around that is the motto, quote, striving for excellence, unquote. And it has the district's name. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And the blanket toss, like there's some children that are kind of like reaching for the sky, and that's where it says striving for excellence, right?
It's exactly right above the children reaching for the sky. Yeah. So, and I'm starting to wonder how he decided to change this logo up. Chris, do you want to describe that for everybody?
Yeah. So we have an image here of the coaster that Stirling created because, spoiler alert, it's going to be all over social media in a second. But so the logo, the district logo is in the middle, and around the logo, Stirling wrote, "Congratulations, you survived NSBSD." Cool.
Oh, the initials for the school district. Yeah.
The initials for the school district, right? Yeah. So congratulations, you survived. It's a retirement gift. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But he also added a couple of overflowing beer mugs in that circle. And below that, he wrote, "It's time for an effing drink."
Oh.
He used the actual word, so there's our profanity. So definitely beer mugs. Here's the kicker. Inside the logo.
Wait, there's more?
But wait, there's more. Inside the logo, Stirling replaced the name of the district to New Stupid Behaviors Starting Daily. Which, like, as someone who has deeply been engaged with schools, like, there's no one's ever going to agree on all the, like, policy decisions you make. So, like, here's the real kicker. Instead of the motto, striving for excellence, Stirling replaced that with the phrase, striving for excrement.
Oh, jeez.
So now we've got these Alaskan natives doing this blanket toss with children reaching for the phrase, striving for excrement.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So it's very sophomoric, right? And
it's so juvenile. Yeah,
it is. And I will say, like, the 14-year-old Jamie, okay. It's kind of funny. I mean, but that's the 14-year-old Jamie.
Right. And there's a reason
that's
we
the
don't.
Reason, yeah, that's the reason why we don't hire 14-year-old principals. I would say the judgment is a little not fully developed yet.
Right. Well, and like he's developing these things. It's just going to be for him and for his principal colleagues. So someone in the exact same role as him, like it's intended to be a very private message.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like
it wasn't, it didn't stay private for too long. In fact,
because we're talking about it.
Yes, exactly. But like even that night, okay? Like it did not stay private. All right? Because Stirling, ladies and gentlemen, was not alone in the school.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. So the janitorial staff were there, which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So there were two custodians that were there, and they were watching him do this, you know, or saw the finished product or something like that, and took a picture of the newly designed coaster and sent it to another teacher in the district. Okay. And then that same night, okay, the teacher who received the picture from the custodian posted the picture to Facebook with the caption that read, quote, "This principal is using our NSBSD symbol with the picture of us natives. We are not excrement and we shouldn't be seen that way. Our people know respect comes before everything. This is beyond disrespectful and hurtful to our people," unquote.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So like the community so it immediately gets out to the community, right? And like the community are connecting dots in ways that, you know, Stirling may not have intended.
Right. Because this is offensive. This is profane and it's offensive. Period.
Right.
It's sophomoric. You know, if you're a 14-year-old boy, you might look at that and laugh, but the 14-year-old boy does not have the kind of perspective that a principal should have. Right. And does not exercise the kind of discretion in many ways that a principal
viewing it
should.
From the perspective of the community here, like, you know.
Totally. Right. And that's what I mean. Like you need to have a sensitivity and an understanding of how your words and actions will impact your community. Like that's a first and foremost sort of foundational principle.
For principles.
PLE. Yeah. For principles, PAL. And yeah, like it's like that's a non-negotiable. And that's the kind of stuff that gets a lot of principals and a lot of other administrators and even teachers in trouble.
Right.
Right. Anyway, so obviously, small town, big area, small town.
Right.
Word gets around fast because that same night, Stirling texts the custodian and asks why she shared the picture. So he's definitely seen the post already.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So like it gets up on Facebook and immediately he knows about it.
Exactly.
Oh, geez. Okay.
So the custodian shoots back, quote, "All of the things you could have made, you made the one with the words, whatever you made with the district's logo. Do you really think we're crap?"
Oh.
So this,
man,
honestly, it's very clear that this struck a nerve in the community.
Seriously. Yeah. I'm just imagining being just like, you know, thinking about this from both perspectives, like, you know, seeing your principal make this, right? Like that, like, you know, even having to ask that question, like, do you really think we're crap? And then like being the school leader who gets that text, like, oh no, like, I mean, I felt my stomach just drop.
Totally.
Like, I can't imagine.
Totally.
Oof.
Yeah. Listen, I don't know this guy. You know, I would like to think that was not his intention. I mean, he kind of said that was not his intention. People make mistakes, but like, man, like,
right. Well, you don't know how something's going to be interpreted by others, right?
No, but like you should, in
Anticipate?
that kind of position, you should anticipate it, and you should, I don't want to say overcompensate, but you should try to be sensitive, and you should ensure that your words and your actions, or at least you should really try hard to ensure that your words and actions are not going to do something like that. And clearly in that moment, he was not trying very hard. He was not,
or hadn't thought about it, right? Like hadn't considered it.
Or maybe he thought this wasn't going to get out. I don't know.
Right. Which, you know,
poor choices.
Email like email like it's going to be read on Chalk and Gavel, right? Like that's one of our pieces of advice.
That is. Okay. So Stirling texted the custodian an apology and explained that he didn't think anybody was crap and that he was, instead just expressing some frustration with the district's decisions.
Right.
And like you described, the children doing the traditional blanket toss and they're kind of reaching for the sky, and above it is striving for excellence that he replaced with striving for excrement, so it looks like the kids are striving for excrement.
Right.
I would like to believe that was not his intention.
Right. He's critiquing the district and basically
he's saying, hey, we're not an excellent district. We're full of crap. And I don't think he was
you probably don't want
trying
your
to-
principal saying, but like,
No, you don't.
I don't know if it makes it better.
Exactly. But, I really don't think that he was trying to say, hey, our kids are crap or they're striving for crap. Like, I don't think that was his, but again,
it strikes me as kind of like venting to a colleague, right? Like, we're in this together. Like we kind of share, we talk about this stuff because we're in the same position and like,
exactly.
We're commiserating, right?
Right. And listen, I think that changing the district's name to New Stupid Behaviors or whatever, I don't think he's talking about he's not talking about the kids, teachers or the kids. Like he's probably talking about district leaders. Now, the other thing to put into context here is a lot of these communities, there is an interesting mix of indigenous people, Alaskan natives, right? And people who are not Alaskan natives,
right.
And my understanding is in some communities, there are some tensions. There are some, between those two communities. And I don't know which players here are members of which community.
Well, I do know that Stirling was born in the lower 48.
We know that Stirling was born in the lower 48, but we don't know the school district officials, for example, that were in power at the time making these decisions that he seems to be upset with. We don't know who they are. And so maybe, again, pure speculation, but there could be some contention there. Right. And so, an Alaskan Native teacher could be still, thinking, I know he's not talking about me, but he's talking about the school district leaders who are also
me.
Maybe. Right? Like, we don't know. Like, that's why it's important to kind of toss out there. There's a lot that we don't know.
Right.
And there's a lot that could be playing into this.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
Now, regardless, what he did was inappropriate.
Right.
Right.
And it's taking on a life of its own in this community.
Exactly. So it's all spreading. Images are being shared to Twitter. Stirling said that he feared for his safety. This is when he took a plane to the next community over, and it's all, it's blowing up. Right.
Right.
Okay. So here's how all of this went down. Like literally 2 days after he made the coasters. HR director meets with Stirling, union rep meets with Stirling. During that meeting, Stirling was like, listen, I don't think I can be an effective leader because the majority of the community thinks I'm racist.
Oh, right? Whoa. So Stirling said that.
Stirling said that, right?
Okay.
And so after that meeting, HR director issues a report, says, we think this guy should be fired. The memo specifically said, Stirling willfully operated company property for personal use and unwittingly disparaged the good people and students of Point Lay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, that unwittingly disparaged, I think kind of acknowledging hey, maybe he didn't mean this, but
it happened.
That's how it's being perceived. And that people are putting that meaning on it. Right.
Yeah. He didn't mean to do it, but he did it.
Right. And that's ultimately more important, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Your motivation is often less important than what actually happened. So, he gets a letter from the assistant superintendent, placing him on paid administrative leave. Come in a couple of days later for a meeting, and at the meeting He receives another letter saying he's being recommended for termination because his conduct constituted incompetence and harassment and discrimination.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. That tracks, right?
Yeah. And sort of reinforced, the letter kind of reinforced what Stirling said before, that, the despairing, that he couldn't do his job, basically because of the disparaging messaging and the discriminatory nature of everything, right? And thus the community is losing faith in him.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
It's really hard to lead if you don't have that kind of trust with the community, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know, like you're saying at this point, Chris, like, okay, what about due process?
I was going to say, if we're going to fire this guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where's my process?
So, well, he got it. Okay.
Oh, good.
He got a pre-termination hearing. He got a post-termination hearing. And
okay.
That's enough process.
That's a lot of process.
It's a lot of process. Okay. Before we fire you, let's have a hearing. Out with it. Everybody has a chance to explain everything. Okay.
Right.
Done that.
Tell us why we shouldn't fire you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Given all that, we're going to fire you. And then there's a post-termination hearing.
Right.
So he got all that.
The post-termination hearing is like in front of the entire school board.
Yeah.
So
and this is on February 2nd. This is like a week after all of this happened. Okay. This is
for the
fast
pre-termination hearing, right? Yeah. Like that's really fast. Like
it's fast.
He gets terminated within a week of making the coasters. Like,
yeah.
That's really impressive that you can do all of this process within a week.
Yeah. Those of you who had your doubts about bureaucracy, let me tell you.
It doesn't have to go slow.
It doesn't have to. No. So, all right. So all of that happened. They had an investigation. They did the whole thing. There was process. All right. And the superintendent concluded that that his use of district property to willfully disparage the good people and students of Point Lay made it impossible for him to return to the village and the district to continue to work as a school administrator.
Okay.
And then next day, he's gone. He's terminated for cause. Okay.
Yeah. For cause. That's going to be really important.
Yep. And it's incompetence and substantial noncompliance with school laws of the state.
Okay. Probably related to discrimination and harassment.
Yeah. So then there's a post-termination hearing, right? This is one of those diet court things that we talk about a lot, right?
We love diet court.
Yeah. Unlike the pre-termination hearing, where Stirling wasn't told that he could have witnesses or anything like that, this hearing was much more serious. So both sides submitted trial briefs, documented exhibit lists existed, witness lists, all of that stuff. At the hearing before the school board, which took place in April, the district called... A couple months later, right? The district called 5 witnesses, including the teacher who posted the original Facebook message.
Okay.
All 5 of the district's witnesses testified that they found the coaster offensive and disrespectful to the people of Point Lay and North Slope. Stirling called 7 witnesses, and this is where the plot thickens, Chris.
But wait, there's more.
The airplane, the plot thickens. And Leon's getting larger. Two of Stirling's witnesses testified that the Facebook teacher had told them he wanted Stirling to get fired. So there might be a grudge here.
Oh, no. Okay. So there's like internal politics potentially.
Yeah. Like maybe there were people who didn't like him to begin with and just wanted him gone.
Also, he was principal from like 2020 to 2022. So like that was not an easy time to be a school leader because of COVID, right? Like that was a mess.
And it's also like it takes a while for a new leader to build trust within a community, right?
Sure.
And maybe he didn't have the time. But listen, we're not saying there's a conspiracy here, but it's just interesting that the custodian knew exactly who to text that picture to.
Right. Yeah. So there's some micro politics going on here as well, probably.
And we don't know if the custodian knew. Maybe this was the custodian's friend.
Right.
Or maybe the custodian knew, this person hates the principal, so I'm going to send it to them. Like,
or that like, hey, like I find this problematic. I think this person might too, right? Like,
so all the speculation that we're doing here should reinforce to all of you folks how important it is to really know and understand your community and be responsive, right?
yeah,
To those quirks and nuances and whatever, if you know that some people hate you, like it's important to know if you are not very well liked, right? And then you have to deal with that.
kill them with kindness.
You got to do something. Anyway.
Yeah.
So Stirling, several other witnesses, including the retired principal who received the coasters, testified that they read the coasters as an expression of frustration between Stirling and the district. So they were reinforcing what we talked about earlier. Like this is not an indictment of the community, right?
Right.
This is an indictment of the district. Okay. But again, we don't know if the community feels that the district is the community, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Stirling went on to say that he never meant to insult Alaska Native people, that he had nothing but respect and admiration for the people, blah, blah, blah. Board ultimately not persuaded by any of this, because at the following hearing, the board unanimously found that the district demonstrated it had good cause to terminate Stirling. And so that's where this landed. And now it's your turn, sir.
Oh, my turn?
Yes.
Right. Because, he brings a lawsuit. Huh. Funny how that happened.
So what did he claim in this lawsuit? Like, why did he say that he was unjustly terminated?
So he basically has three arguments. One is that they didn't have good cause, right? Two is that his coasters were actually protected speech that you can't fire him for. And three, that he didn't get enough process, or he didn't get the appropriate process. So those are his arguments. And he loses
this
at
is
the trial court level.
This is my I'm not convinced face.
Well, you and the trial court, because the trial court also said, no dice. So this is in Alaskan state court, because this is an employment thing, and employment law happens at the state level. So Stirling obviously doesn't like the fact that he lost at the trial court level. So he appeals this all the way up to the Alaskan Supreme Court.
Wow.
And they've got to address those three questions. So let's start with incompetence, which oddly enough is usually where I start. But it's also where the court started. So, most states have laws about when teachers and school leaders can be fired for cause, like during a contract. Typically, these are like egregious things like incompetency, insubordination, inappropriate or illegal conduct, that sort of stuff. And in Alaska, they define incompetency as, quote, the inability or the unintentional or intentional failure to perform the principal's customary duties in a satisfactory manner.
Okay.
So basically, like, can you do the job? We don't care why you can or can't do the job. Can you do it well enough? That's the definition of incompetency. So what do we think?
What's the question? Like, is he incompetent?
Yeah.
I mean,
is there enough evidence here that he's unable to satisfactorily complete the duties of a principal?
I think so.
And you know what? Stirling thinks so. He said it himself.
He said it. That's right.
Yeah.
He said it.
Yeah, he said the thing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like, so even Stirling kind of admits that, like, hey, I don't think I can be an effective leader anymore because of how this played out in the community. And the court agrees. They're like, we see it too.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, we're going to kind of give some deference to the school here as well, because they saw it as well. And they put on a lot of evidence.
Saw it, including
right.
You. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, like, that's pretty good evidence that, like, hey, maybe you can't satisfactorily do this job anymore because you lost the community's trust. You can no longer be an effective leader.
Mm-hmm.
But what about free speech?
Okay,
We've talked about this a lot, right? Like, it's unlawful for the government to fire you for your protected speech.
Yeah,
so if the coasters are protected speech, you can't fire them for it.
Yeah, but like being critical of your boss, disparaging your boss has repeatedly been shown in the courts That's not protected speech.
Especially if you're a leader, right? Like if you're in
Yeah,
management.
the higher up you go, the higher
Yeah.
standard you have to meet. And so that
Right. Which is funny though, because that's actually not the rationale the court adopts.
really?
So yeah, the court finds that this is not protected speech. So we've talked about it before, like
Yeah.
under the First Amendment, we apply Pickering-Garcetti.
Yep.
There are 3 questions you have to answer.
Yep.
Was the speech pursuant to the employee's official duties? If
Yeah.
yes, it's not protected.
No.
Was
in
the
this case.
speech right? Yeah. No.
Yeah.
The coaster retirement gift, definitely not.
It's not his job.
Um, Was the speech on a matter of public concern? If it's on a purely private matter, typically that's a personal employment matter. It's not protected.
Yeah.
Here, like that's kind of an open question.
I
Like,
don't know. I kind of see it like he's not engaging
I see
the
it
community.
personal, right?
I see
Yeah.
it personal too, because he's
Yeah.
not engaging the community in this kind of
Right.
discussion. Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
this is a private, it was intended to be private.
Right. And you know, it's fun. The court just is like, I'm not going to answer those first 2 questions. Let's just assume without deciding because I want to get to the 3rd question.
Well, that's interesting because those first 2 questions seem very easy to answer. Okay, but that's fine. So what's the third
But
question?
the 3rd question is, I think, even easier to answer. So the
Okay.
3rd question is basically a balancing act. Like if it is speech on a matter of public concern as a citizen, then you ask like, okay, we got to do this balancing test. Is
Yeah.
the employer or the government's interest in kind of the smooth and efficient operation of the school, does that outweigh the teacher or the principal in this case's interests in their speech?
Yeah,
And
so
we gotta do
basically in this case,
balancing
it's like,
test.
yeah, it's like how much of a negative effect did this have on the operations of the school? right?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
when you're looking at that, like you can look at, well, you know, did it disrupt the school's normal operations? And did it erode the public trust between the school and members of the community? And
Check and check.
check and check, right? You're like
Right.
Stirling himself admits it. So for all the same reasons that he's no longer kind of able to do the job satisfactorily, which justified his for-cause termination, those same reasons definitely shift the First Amendment analysis here in favor of the government.
Right.
So, you know, here, like, there's no First Amendment violation because this was unprotected speech.
Yep. Okay.
And finally, there's a question about process. Now, this one is actually kind of interesting because just because you get to a justified outcome, that doesn't mean you got there in the right way.
Yeah.
And that's something the law is really worried about. We want both. We want just outcomes, and
Right.
just outcomes are more likely when you have good procedures.
Exactly.
And so, you know, when dealing with due process, the more significant the thing the government is going to take away, life, liberty, or property, the more process you get. That's
Yeah.
why, you know, suspensions of 10 days or less get very minimal process, notice in a hearing, whereas like death penalty cases get everything we can possibly think of.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So here, the court concludes that getting fired is actually kind of serious.
Well,
So-
I would agree. So let's make sure there's enough process. So
Right.
was
And there
there?
was enough process, but not early enough in the process. So essentially, the court says during that pre-termination hearing, you should have given Stirling the opportunity to bring witnesses, and you didn't do that. Therefore, you violated his due process rights because you didn't tell him that he could bring witnesses to his pre-termination hearing. Now, that ultimately gets fixed because he does get witnesses at the
Yeah, the
post-termination
post-termination hearing. Yeah, exactly.
So, but the Supreme Court, the Alaskan Supreme Court says you owe him back pay for the time when you didn't give him enough process. So basically, the
couple
school
of
district
months.
owes him 2 months of
Yeah.
back pay because they didn't give him enough process early enough in the process.
Got it. Okay. So,
Yeah.
all right. So like,
So
that's an important
school
thing
wins.
to, the school wins, but it's an important thing to remember is like that process piece, as cut and dry as this case was from not only from a legal perspective, but from an ethical perspective,
Right.
I would say, right? Like you don't want to back yourself into a corner that you can't get out of because of, I've called these things technicalities. They're not technicalities because I don't want to minimize them because they're very obvious. Like you
Right.
said, they're very important. But like the process piece does not account for the actual issues, right? It's just
Right.
the process. And you don't want to jeopardize
The outcome because
the
of the
outcome
process.
because because you messed up a process. Now,
Right.
luckily for the school, if the school hadn't conducted a post-termination hearing, or hadn't conducted one with the full benefits of the law,
Right.
then that termination might have been overturned.
Undone, and they would have to redo it, right? Redo the process, essentially. Mhm.
Yeah. So, it ended up working out in this, but like, that's the good takeaway here is
Right.
like, don't skimp on the process.
Right. Yeah. The process matters as much as the outcome.
Totally.
And importantly, with this case, like, the process doesn't have to take long. Like, he got fired within a week. Like,
Yeah.
they did the investigation, they did the initial meeting, they did the pre-termination hearing. Like, all of that stuff went really, really fast. So, like,
Yep.
People often think about process as this, like, oh my gosh, that's going to take months and months and months. And like, it can, and I'm not going to minimize that. It definitely can,
Right.
but it can also go very quickly because, it can be responsive to need.
Yeah.
So, like, you can do it, and you can do it right, and it doesn't have to take long.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But you got to do it right. And that's really, really important.
Man.
And then my takeaway here is like, and this is something that, like, I almost start all of my school law classes with: be reasonable. Like, that's kind of what I said. Like, all of education law kind of distills down to be reasonable. Am I cool if someone reads what I'm saying on the 6 o'clock news? And the answer to that is no. As a school leader, rethink it, perhaps. I've also heard this called the grandmother test. If you're cool with grandma reading it.
So, it's funny because I use that all the time, like, especially in my role as one of my side gigs as a camp director in the summer, right? Like, when I'm talking to counselors who are in many cases, 17, 18 years old, and this is their first job in most cases. And on top of that, it's a very consequential job. You're a counselor for 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds, right? And so teaching them how to interact with these kids is really, really important. And one of the things I always say is, like, if you wouldn't say it in front of the kid's parent, then don't say it in front of the kid. Right? Like, I'm pretty sure none of my counselors listen to this podcast, but like, if they did, they'd be like, oh yeah, he says that all the time. Right? Like, eye roll. Yeah. Like, I've never heard it called the grandmother test, but like, it's the same thing, right? It's the exact same thing.
That might be a Chris Thomas original. I don't know. I don't know if I can take credit for that or not. But yeah, like, and here, like, there's definitely a difference in intent and how the message was received.
Right.
But like, ultimately here, that didn't matter. So like, these questions are really, really important.
Yeah. No, totally. That was some very poor choices made by a principal, and an outcome that was, at least in my opinion, the right outcome. Like, that's...
Mm-hmm. The court certainly thought so.
And the court thought so, and the process, was enough, barely, but, it got them where they needed to get to. And so listen, that's another important lesson, folks. Just work really hard to keep your name out of the news and your face out of the paper, and keep your community happy, and understand and, respect and value your community.
Right. So that you can accomplish your educational goals.
Right. Because if you don't, you're fighting an uphill battle constantly that you're definitely going to lose if you don't have that respect. All right. Well, homework.
Homework is we should put Chalk and Gavel coasters.
Coasters.
We need coasters for merch, right?
Yes, we do. We have lots of merch. Like this.
Ooh, yeah. Our mug. Can I get my candy now mug?
Go to chalkandgavel.com to...
check to see if we made coasters.
Which I promise you will not be offensive or profane.
Right.
Okay.
Maybe we should, we should repurpose the Chalk and Gavel logo, and like, let's play with it. Okay. Let's see what we can come up with.
All right.
Or, just go to the website and notice that we didn't follow through, and that's fine too.
Yeah. Support us on the website too. We've, there's a page there that helps us keep the show going. Any donation or contribution would be greatly appreciated, to help us keep this labor of love alive. Yes.
Sometimes it's hard for voice recognition to recognize Chalk and Gavel. when we do our
Yeah,
transcripts.
that's right.
So let's change it to Chuck and Gravel.
Chuck and Gravel. That AI likes Chuck and Gravel a lot.
That'd
We
be
see
such a
that
different podcast, but I'm here for it.
All right. Well,
Yep. Get us wherever you get
that's-
your podcasts. Follow us on social media at Chalk and Gavel, chalkandgavel.com. We'd love
It's
to
all
hear
there.
from you. Keep engaged.
That's right. All right, folks. That does it for another episode, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Have a good one, everybody.